Vale of Shadows. In a quiet, picturesque town surrounded by rolling green hills, the Waverly family, Julia, Marcus, and their spirited little boy, Oliver, moved into an old Victorian house. With its tall windows and creaky wooden floors, the house looked like something out of a fairy tale. For Julia and Marcus, this was a chance for a fresh start after some tough times, and they hoped it would bring their family closer together. From the moment they arrived, Oliver was mesmerized by the house. He ran through rooms filled with dust motes dancing in the sunlight and discovered hidden corners to explore. He even thought he caught glimpses of strange shapes flitting about, but he brushed off those silly ideas as his imagination. Julia and Marcus, busy unpacking boxes and adjusting to their new surroundings, didn't think much of it either. As the days passed, however, a thick unease settled over the family. Oliver began to talk about the shadows he saw, dark figures lurking at the edges of his vision, whispering secrets that sent chills up his spine. He often awoke from nightmares, frightened and confused, telling his mom and dad about the strange voices calling to him from the hallways. "They want me to come play with them," he would say, his big brown eyes wide with fear. "Sweetheart, it's just your imagination," Julia would say gently, brushing his hair back. "There's nothing to be afraid of here. It's just an old house." Marcus, preoccupied with his work and eager to settle into their new life, dismissed Oliver's concerns as childhood fantasies. He thought his son would adjust in time. After all, every child goes through phases of imagination. But as night fell, the air within the house felt heavy, suffocating even, as if the walls were closing in around them. Then, one fateful evening, everything changed. After a long day of playing, Oliver fell asleep, but this time, something felt different. When morning returned, Julia and Marcus could not wake him. Panic set in as they called doctors and rushed him to the hospital, where tests revealed no answers. The doctors were baffled. Oliver lay in a deep, unresponsive coma, his little body still and silent. Devastation flooded Julia's heart. She felt as though the very ground beneath her was crumbling. She tried to mentally reach out to Oliver, whispering for him to come back to her. Marcus was equally shaken, but he buried himself deep in his work, trying to find solace in daily tasks, feeling helpless as his son lay motionless. In desperation, Julia sought help from Evelyn, a medium known in town for her connection to the spiritual world. Evelyn's reputation marked her as both intriguing and unsettling, but Julia was willing to try anything to save her son. Their meeting felt surreal as Julia stepped into Evelyn's dimly lit room, filled with softly flickering candles casting long shadows on the walls. The atmosphere buzzed with an energy all its own. "Your son is caught between two worlds," Evelyn said gravely, her voice only a whisper. "There are dark forces at play in the house you live in. It feeds off fear and despair. We must confront its grip before it consumes him entirely." "What do you mean?" Julia's heart raced. "You mean the house is responsible for his coma?" Evelyn nodded, looking deep into Julia's eyes. "Yes, but it's not just the house. It's the spirits trapped within it, and they are drawn to your son. They see him as a beacon of light. But darkness craves light, and they want to snuff it out." Julia's mind spun. "How can we save him?" "We'll have to perform a ritual to cleanse the house and release the spirits. But be warned, the shadows will resist. They will show you what they want you to see: fear, sadness, and anger. You need to keep your heart strong." With determination in her heart, Julia began working with Evelyn to learn the rituals. They lit candles and gathered herbs, preparing for the confrontation with the energy that filled her home. As they began, the air around them thickened, and an unsettling chill crept into the room. Every evening after, they returned to the house, and with each ritual, they felt the dark energy grow stronger, resisting their attempts to break through. Spectres appeared, wailing and weeping, their faces twisted in anguish. They tried to lure Julia and Evelyn into their sorrow, whispering heartbreaking tales of their lives and asking for assistance, but Julia fought against their grip with thoughts of her son. One night, as Julia prepared for their next ritual, she uncovered an old diary hidden away in the walls. Its pages were yellowed and fragile, covered with faded ink. As she read the diary, her breath caught in her throat. The entries revealed a horrifying truth. The house had a long history of sadness and darkness, filled with stories of families who had lived there before. Many had lost their children, sacrificed them in hopes of appeasing the evil forces that haunted the place. But what struck Julia most was the connection to Marcus. The diary mentioned the Waverly family line, describing how they had made dark bargains to protect their loved ones from the very shadows that were now tormenting Oliver. Each generation buried their heads in the sand and ignored the screams of those trapped, inadvertently dooming their descendants to face the horror. Shaken, Julia confronted Marcus with her findings. "You never told me, Marcus. Your family's past is tied to this house. Why didn't you say anything?" Marcus's face drained of color. I didn't know. I thought we were finally free of it. I thought I could protect you both." Julia felt a mix of anger and fear. "Your family has been hiding from this evil for generations, and now it's after Oliver. We need to fight this together." The tension boiled between them. They were scared and confused, their world unraveling as the stakes became clear. But deep down, they knew they had to unite and confront the darkness head-on for Oliver's sake. With renewed determination, Julia, Marcus, and Evelyn faced the shadows once more. In a climactic showdown, they stood in the heart of the house, where the energy hummed and buzzed ominously. Julia shouted into the darkness, "You will not claim my son. We are stronger than you think." As they chanted their incantations, the air thickened, and the shadows writhed, swirling around them. The grinning man appeared, a figure of pure malice, with a wide, terrifying grin curved on his face. He reached for them, sending waves of cold terror crashing over them. "You cannot escape your fate," he hissed. Julia's heart raced, but she focused on Oliver's heartbeat, steady and strong, echoing in her ears. She spread her arms wide, refusing to back down. "We choose love. You will not win." In that moment of bravery, light burst forth from their hearts, illuminating the dark corners of the room. The ghosts, once trapped in despair, began to rise and speak, voices of sorrow wafting through the air. They pleaded for release from their agony, and in the presence of the light, their pain transformed into a kind of peace. Oliver's voice echoed in Julia's mind, "Mom, don't be afraid. I'm right here." That connection became a lifeline, breaking through the despair. Julia looked at Marcus, and he nodded, the weight of their shared love radiating through the room. They spoke together, asking for the spirits to be free, for forgiveness to wash over them. As they chanted, the grinning man howled furiously, trying to pull everything back into darkness. But the light broke through like a powerful wave, washing over everything. In one final surge, shadows curled and twisted until they vanished, leaving only sunlight and warmth. Moments later, Oliver opened his eyes. Surrounded by familiar faces, he blinked in confusion, but his gaze was clear. "Mom?" "Dad," he murmured. Tears poured down Julia's cheeks, and she gathered him into her arms, holding him tightly. Marcus joined them, embracing his family fiercely. The house, once a prison, felt lighter, the air filled with warmth, a stark contrast to the darkness they had battled. As dawn broke, the shadows melted away completely, leaving behind a feeling of calmness. The Waverly family stood together in their living room, feeling the light of a new beginning wash over them. They held each other close, hearts filled with gratitude and relief, knowing they had survived the storm together. In the aftermath of their ordeal, Julia, Marcus, and Oliver decided to leave the house behind. Although it held memories of fear, it also reminded them of their strength. They now carried with them the lessons learned about love, courage, and embracing the light no matter how dark the shadows became. Thanks for watching Dark Tales. If you enjoyed this story, please consider to like and subscribe. Leave us a comment about your favorite horror story. See you next time.